Hello everyone, today's PowerPoint should be used in conjunction with the Woman in Black comprehension. Please listen to the slide before you begin answering the questions. The Woman in Black was written by an English woman called Suzanne Hill. She is actually still alive to this day. This is one of her most famous pieces of writing, and the book was made into a film starring Daniel Radcliffe, who was Harry Potter in the Harry Potter franchise. So if you look in the middle of the slide, she wrote this book in 1983. However, the book was set during the Edwardian period, which ran from 1901 to 1910. When you are reading this extract, I want you to underline the historical context clues that you find. So, for example, clothing, equipment, views and opinions that were common in that period but are not held now. If you wanted to buy this book or wanted to get this book in the library, you would find it in the fantasy or horror section. Some of the common characteristics associated with these two genres are as follows. Now, generally, so we're speaking in general terms here, fantasy and horror books will be fiction and events cannot really happen in real life. There will also be some magical elements to the book. Some creature or some character might have some mystical powers, and it's generally, once again, generalization here, it's the battle versus good and evil. So what I want you to do is, can you think of any books that match these characteristics? So after you have completed the multiple choice questions and the short question, you will arrive at the long question. So the long question is a compare and contrast question. So we are asking you to compare and contrast how you would feel in comparison to the main character, Arthur. Now there are a few things that you need to know before you start answering the question. So you compare things by stating how they are alike, and you contrast things by stating how they are different. Now, before you even attempt to write your answer, I would like you to write down the similarities and differences and do that by creating a Venn diagram. Now that you have planned your answer, we're going to look at how you actually write your compare and contrast answer or paragraph. Now you have two options. The first option we are going to look at is option 1. So for this example, we are going to be comparing and contrasting Apple and Samsung devices. So to start this compare and contrast answer, you would start with a topic sentence. So that tells the reader what will be compared and contrasted. So you're going to start your answer with, I am going to be comparing how Apple products or Apple devices differ from Samsung devices. In your main body, you would compare and contrast each device as you go along. So you would write the benefits of an Apple device, then you would follow it in the next sentence with the disadvantages of a Samsung, and then you'd continue that process all the way through until you are satisfied that you have compared and contrasted them enough. Then you would finish off your answer with a concluding sentence that gives your opinion on the topic, or you summarize basically what you have wrote. Option 2 is called the block method, and for this example we are going to be comparing the characters of Katniss and Peeta. So same as option 1, you tell the reader what will be compared and contrasted. So you are going to be comparing the characteristics of Katniss and Peeta. So in your main body now, what is different from option 1 is you will write 5 or 6 lines talking about the characteristics of Peeta and listing evidence to support your characteristics. Then what you would do then in the next 5 or 6 lines, you would talk about the key characteristics of Katniss and support that with evidence. And in your concluding sentence or your concluding paragraph, that is when you would compare and contrast them. So that is a little bit different than option 1. So you can choose which option you would prefer to use whilst writing your compare and contrast paragraph. So here is a very, very simple example of option 1. So in green, I have the topic sentence. So there are several ways I can refer to eating habits of some of my friends in Canada and in Brazil. So the main body is where I am listing the similarities and differences. I am going back and forth. So based on my observations, Canadians love meat and potatoes. However, Brazilians prefer rice and beans. Unlike Americans, who favor apple pie for dessert, both Canadians and Brazilians seem to prefer creme brulee and creme caramel. And in red, we have the concluding sentence, so you summarize your ideas. In summary, these are some of the many ways I can state some differences and similarities of the eating habits of some of my friends from Brazil and from Canada. Now that is a very, very simple example. I would expect a much higher level of answer from yourselves in grade 8. The last slide has some key phrases and key words that you may find useful in comparing and contrasting Arthur to yourself. So please have a look through it. They are quite helpful and they will help you answer the question properly. If you have any questions, please contact your teacher on Google Classroom.